Hi, my name is Mitch Matthews. This is part one of the mental health training video. So today I'm going to be talking about a specific illness, and the illness that I've chosen is depression. To be more specific, major depressive disorder, MDD. So depression is theorized to be caused by multiple different factors, and it's not restricted to one of these, but they can impact the way a person feels and possibly make them feel depressed. First is their neurochemistry, which means that there is something that's off balance in their brain. This could have to do with serotonin and the way that the body works and absorbs that. Second is social conditions, such as, say, an individual is from a bad neighborhood where there's lots of gun violence and they become nervous and hypervigilant because of that. That can lead to depression and lead to the development of some of the symptoms as well. Third is nutrition, and that means the way that an individual eats. This can be explained by, for instance, if an individual eats fast food and processed food for most of their meals, then this could affect their brain and affect the way that they think and act. Also, there's a hereditary portion, so genetic. There are people who have theorized that this is a trait that is passed on from parents to children. And also behavioral. So, for example, if an individual is working at the same place for their entire life, say for 10 or 15 years, and they start to get tired of that, that can start to build and become over repetitive, and this can lead to depression. There's also some theory that early life trauma has to do with depression, but there's also early life trauma can lead to a multiplicity of issues that can affect a person. So, like I said, I'm going to be focusing on MDD, which is major depressive disorder. There's also persistent depressive disorder, which means that the depression lasts for over 2 years. But MDD is more of a short term, and it's been caught early per se. So, in order to be diagnosed with MDD, you must have 4 out of the symptoms that they have listed for depression. These symptoms include weight loss, so extreme weight loss if you're not able to keep your weight up, sleep issues, problem falling asleep, increased or decreased activity, fatigue, so you feel tired, maybe don't feel, you kind of feel lethargic, problems thinking, problems cognitively, guilt, a feeling of guilt and worthlessness, so you feel that you may not be worth, like the things that you do are meaningless. And then also, finally, a thought of death or suicide. So if you're having suicidal thoughts, this can be a hint or a symptom of depression. And like I said, you have to have 4 of these to be categorized as having MDD. So without these 4, you can't be given that diagnosis. And just on a side note, almost everyone deals with depression in some form or the other. MDD and pervasive depressive disorder, they're more advanced, and it's where it's really starting to have a negative effect on that person's life. So the age of onset is a little different between men and women. For women it is 23, and for men it's 25. Some people, they're surprised when they hear this, but with all the expectations and things that we expect women to do on a day-to-day basis can lead to earlier onset depression. So Beck, who is a cognitive theorist, does, I think, the best job at explaining depression in three key realms. Those realms are a negative view of the self, a pessimistic view of the environment, and a negative view of the future. The treatment theory, or the treatment method that I'm going to be using to treat my client with depression is going to be a cognitive behavioral therapy. This means that I'm trying to make the client realize that their mood is related to their actions, and that can also be intertwined in their dysfunctional thinking or their dysfunctional activities, the things that they're not doing correctly, or the things that they're having issues with. A definition of cognitive behavioral therapy is to allow a client to self-reflect on their negative life patterns and give them the ability to alter those positive outlets, to positive outlets. So basically, I will assess the client and provide treatment options. So underneath the cognitive behavioral therapy approach, I'm going to be using a biopsychosocial assessment, or better known as a SOAP note. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me four sections that I need to cover. The first two sections are intertwined and kind of are done simultaneously. That is going to be the subjective and the objective portion of the interview. The subjective portion is what the client says and the information that I gain about the client. So if I ask them about how long they sleep, or if I ask them about how they eat, the information that's provided will give me an assessment of that. And also the subjective portion is what I see and what I notice about how the client's acting, their nonverbals, their verbals. And then, like I said, intertwined with that is an objective section where I'm going to literally write down what the client states, and words that they use to describe things, words they use to describe themselves, and so far and so forth. The third section is going to be an assessment section where I'm going to provide my clinical diagnosis and where I'm going to give them evidence for why I feel they may have a certain diagnosis or something along those lines. And then finally, the planning section, which is the most important section, I believe, and that is where you're giving the client tangible activities and achievable goals that they can do on a weekly basis in order to improve little things about their life. So I'm going to provide small exercises or small activities that can be done, and I'll have that client report that to me in our next session. But that is the end of part 1 on depression. Coming up next will be my interview with my client, Sydney.